Alrighty, we're gonna get started. This 1st of November, 6:07 PM. We're calling the meeting to order. Those on site and remote, if you feel up for it, we'll go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and we'll do a quick roll call.
Thank you. Chair Lawson,
Present?
Lisa Butler. Present. Mike Acciardi,
Present.
Vice Chair Chris Barron, I have not heard from, and Jacqueline Hunt is on her way or going to be joining us shortly, and your ex officio, Counselor Kendall, I have not heard from, so I'm not sure that he will be here. And I see Rowan on the call, and Bill just walked in.
I just walked in.
Thank you, Lori. Pretty light crowd this evening, so we can probably get some pretty good discussion in.
All about
The
quality over.
Yes, very quality conversation. Any public comments submitted ahead of time?
No, sir.
No public comment
No.
and no one on site here. Jesse Mays, and it looks like no one online as well. But that's public comment. Keep moving along. We'll take a look at last month's meeting minutes for the month of October, or excuse me, September. We had the joint session as well. So we're probably going back a little further than usual. We reviewed the resolution establishing the EDC, resolution number 1999. And that was established to create the EDC at the time. And we reviewed the details and prepped for the working session with City Council that happened in October as well. And also went through some UGB process updates, which I'm sure we'll also touch on this evening. And an update on establishing a Main Street organization, which Vice Chairman Chris Barron was working on that, so he will likely have updates if he's able to join. Any other additions or questions from the committee on last month's meeting minutes?
No.
Can I get a motion to approve?
I motion to approve.
I think I can second,
Sure.
technically, as chair.
Yep.
All those in favor of approving last month's meeting minutes, say aye.
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 Thank you. All those opposed? Excellent. We are unanimously approved for last month's meeting minutes, and we can roll right into unfinished business for this evening. Bill, we had a bit of a late start getting people online and in the building, so thank you for joining. I can say you didn't miss anything. So why don't we just dive right in? I'm still getting some messages about the link not working, but Mike, did you use the Zoom link that's in the agenda packet?
Yeah. Mhm.
Well,
I
he
don't
could,
know.
is it Rudy still?
Yeah, I haven't seen Jacqueline either,
Oh,
and I sent her that same link.
I don't know why it would not.
I'm not sure either.
They tried on the calendar,
I don't believe so.
just go to the city calendar and the link is right there. And so is the agenda packet if they open it up. So
Okay.
What you need.
Well, if this was interfaced with email, I could email a link to them
Oh,
from here, but I don't think there's a,
I don't think.
Email
even
account
switched
associated with
over
it.
to-
Right.
Is there a way to pull up the draft via Zoom, or are we gonna talk through it on our own devices?
Oh, you
Um,
can hit share on that thing and
is it up?
Does it have, I can also call in and share myself,
Well, I can do that actually. Let me just do, okay.
whatever's easiest.
And the Zoom link, I need to use this, which one to get in here?
well, I don't know,
On
try
the-
the one on the city
Yeah,
calendar,
I guess that'll be-
since it appears the one on the agenda should be the exact same one.
Yeah,
Hang on, let's oh, hey,
let's check.
nice.
Hi, Jacqueline.
Hello.
Hi there.
No.
It worked for
We're
you.
just getting started.
One.
Yeah, we're kind of sluggishly starting here. We got through all the.
Apologies on my end.
Oh,
All good. We're gonna, I'm pulling up the
Hey.
ordinance draft right now.
Hey, Rudy got it.
Alright. Which link ended up working for you, Jackie?
The one from the agenda, thanks for the tip, Lori. I was trying like 3.
Alright, Bill's working on pulling up the ordinance language draft. And then once we are able to all see that, we'll get started. This will be the main agenda topic for this evening, so we can likely do some brief updates later afterwards, after our discussion, just based on some timing. Or we can push to the December meeting some topics as well, but for the sake of this evening, could everyone see Bill's screen with the ordinance draft?
Yeah, thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. All right, I guess I would love to kind of walk through each section throughout the draft and just see if there's any questions or things we would like to change or add as a group. I've had the chance to look through it, but would love obviously the feedback from the group in terms of anything that wasn't achieved necessarily that we were hoping to achieve with the language or things like that. I think overall it captures just about everything we wanted to capture. So thank you, Bill, for putting this together. Just starting right down the list, section 31.67 of establishment. I think it's pretty on par with how we're structured currently. In terms of chairperson, vice chairperson from the membership. And chairperson will be selected each January for a 1-year term. No member shall serve more than 2 consecutive terms, which I believe is our current situation. And resignation, when made, shall be addressed to and accepted by the mayor. One question we actually were discussing earlier. Bill, was if and when this ordinance gets adopted, approved, accepted, does that essentially restart do we start fresh with terms and things for existing members of the committee?
I'm looking at the city recorder and she says yes.
Okay, so ultimately, we would, if we can get it adopted hypothetically in January of next year, we would go through the process of establishing the chairperson, vice chairperson, and going over some of the ground rules.
Well, So, correct. No, you're good. Because no, we're actually looking at council adopting this this month.
Okay,
And but technically speaking, January 1, we would be looking, you all would be legally a newly formed committee. And so indeed, we'd be looking at basically resetting things, right? New,
Yes.
I mean, yeah, so you're starting over from scratch.
Okay.
Andy is looking at me like you might have a,
Well, maybe I missed the part of the question when I came in. What was the question? Are terms gonna reset?
Yes.
Mhm.
I think we may want to you may want to put some language in the ordinance that at the establishment of the commission, current existing members of the committee continue. And maybe that was the question. So we don't have to advertise for a whole new, go through that entire process.
yeah.
That's a great point. Our question was more focused around in terms of chair, vice chair people, if that would. The timing of both of those positions as well as the election of both positions, if that would necessarily start from a blank slate, but
Right.
it sounds like it would kind of, we would reset the clock. And
And I guess does that apply to the terms of each of the members as well? Or do we roll over the terms?
That needs to be discussed because you don't want everybody's term ending at the same year.
Right.
So, you know, when we first started the committee, Bill drew out of a hat, I think. Do you remember that? And
Yeah.
it was, some had
Pretty
2
staggered.
years, some had 4 year, and one had 5 year, just so that it
Yeah.
didn't all.
so we could go, is that an acceptable process? Not necessarily physically pulling out of a hat, but a random number generator in terms of duration and try to stagger it as best we can.
Yeah, I mean, an easy way to do it is just look at what your existing membership is and how
Mhm.
long they've served, and the longest serving members, you know, kind of
Yeah,
cascade it, stagger it that way.
Okay.
That'd be pretty easy.
I second that thought.
and Jacqueline and Mike, feel free to jump in to even if we're mid-sentence, I just want to make sure you guys are accounted for here.
Thanks, Eric.
No problem. Any other questions or additions for the establishment there?
Okay, so do we agree the chair and vice chair resets? Or is that an open question?
I think it resets. I'm pretty sure we're in agreement there.
Well, it's January 1, so you'd be voting anyway.
Although there are term limits, so there may be some people ineligible.
Some people are in their second term of the position they are in.
But
We get to reset that, right? That's what I heard.
That's what we're trying to argue. about,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, I think
Some of us are trying to.
that's to be I mean, honestly, that's to be discussed because you can talk about that and come to a conclusion about that.
Yeah.
This is precedent for the city, frankly.
Okay, with the vice chair not here this evening, I don't necessarily wanna speak for him or come to a conclusion. I would be willing as chair to essentially reset the clock if we're all in agreement. If not, we can just simply put it to a vote in that case that ultimately gets approved and accepted by the mayor. Yeah, at
I
least,
think as long as you have a majority voting on it,
okay,
because it's not gonna be an every year thing. This
It'll be
is
one
a
time.
one-time reset.
Yeah.
With the new creation of a.
Gotcha.
a Commission, so.
okay. Okay,
So I think I propose that we reset that on January 1st, the terms.
Okay.
Are we in majority
Yeah,
agreement
do
to
they
do
have
that?
comments?
I second.
There you go.
Eric, that doesn't mean that you are not.
yeah. No, where's this section
No
about
vote has been
resignation?
taken.
Okay, perfect. We'll move down to membership qualifications. I think this helps clear up a lot of what we were discussing with city council as well. So again, thank you, Bill. So qualifications for appointment to membership on the EDC include demonstration of positive interest in the development of North Plains and creation of job opportunities or status as a resident or a representative of a property or business owner within city limits, or both, as determined in the discretion of the mayor and city council. No more than 2 persons shall reside outside the incorporated city limits, which I believe, when we add our 2 new members, that would open it up to bringing in someone outside of incorporated city limits, because I believe we all live within incorporated city limits, but that's something we would have to track a little closer.
Jacqueline's out.
I believe we have, Lori is correct. We do have 1 member outside.
Ah, all right.
We have an
So we-
outsider amongst
We have an
us.
Yeah, so we'd be looking for another,
Quite a few feet, yeah.
but it's not required. I mean, if we have 2 residents and 2 vacancies, then you don't
Yes.
have to wait for someone.
Uh-huh.
So-
Right, yes.
Lori, am I considered the outsider or am I in?
You are outside the city limits, correct?
I reside outside the city limits, but I retain owned property inside the city limits. It's a sliver, but it's still there.
You are, but you don't claim that property as your primary residence, correct?
I do not. So you're right by primary residence.
Yeah, so really kind of what it boils down to is, are you a registered voter elector of the city of North Plains?
Not even.
Okay.
eligible.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
I didn't know if property ownership made qualified or not.
Yeah, it really does. No, it was a great question for clarification, and it really has to do with being a North Plains voter or ability to be a North Plains voter on tax issues or what have you.
And so I think that's worth thinking about as we're thinking about business owners, because I can see many scenarios by which someone may own a business but live just outside Dyke's Garage, live just outside city limits.
Yeah.
So that's considered out of,
Mhm.
just like the other boards are the same.
That's a great point, especially as we were discussing trying to bring in a couple business owners, and we would have
Mhm.
that, I'm sure that narrows the field quite a bit. We were looking at business owner and city resident, incorporated city resident.
Good reason to expand the UGB.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to bring it up, didn't
Great,
you?
great call on the public.
Ugh. I was hoping for a meeting where we never said those 2 words.
Yeah.
Just one.
It's on the agenda, Lori. It's on the agenda.
We'll get to it, we'll get. to
Oh, the other-
it. Okay, excellent point, Rudy. Any other discussion around the membership and qualifications? Okay. Perfect. Terms of office.
Mhm.
Upon the expiration of the term of any member, the mayor shall, with the advice of the council, appoint a successor to each member whose term shall have expired. Each succeeding term shall be for a period of 3 years, and the mayor shall, with the advice of the council, appoint successors to such office for each term 3 years thereafter. Appointments shall be structured so as to ensure the terms overlap, as we talked about.
Mhm.
No member shall serve more than 3 consecutive 3-year terms, so 9 years total consecutively. Following the completion of 3 consecutive 3-year terms, a member may not apply for an additional term until they have stepped down from the commission for a period of no less than 1 year, after which point they may reapply. So essentially a gap year before they can reapply, which I must say that reading through, I think it was the Cornelius ordinance document, it's essentially states the same thing, what was much less clear. It was a bit muddier in terms of the language, so thank you for making that very clear, Mr. Reed.
That's Okay, there you go. You're very welcome.
Also, a good change after the discussion. This seems like this meets the
Yes.
arguments that were made against what we originally had.
So I just want to, not to make any section go on longer or too long, but I do want to point out or remind you that at the city council work session, there were voices that said, we don't want it to be too restrictive about term or how many times you can serve, because it is a very small town. And so if anybody wants to consider or recommend that the terms be 4 years or maybe 3-year terms, and you can serve more or whatever, just kind of remind you that there were voices that you don't want to be too restrictive either.
I think this strikes a good balance of that. 9 years is sufficient, I would say. If you're hypothetically losing a member every at a 9-year rate, if it's getting maxed out, I feel like that's plenty of retainage time. So
Just take a year off and do like a lobbyist and come right back on.
another 9 years, make up a good 20-year chunk of time. Mike or Jacqueline?
Would it be against the bylaws to add a one or more at-large members who could be outside the city limits?
That's definitely something we could consider. I think at this point, we would stick to some pretty firm bylaws that are written in the ordinance like now, and then kind of ad hoc bring in different consultants or guest speakers as needed. It's kind of our idea on that. But the other point that was brought up, because it is both term length and the overall size of the committee, the concern over being able to fill those seats is something that we discussed quite a bit. And so adding the at-large additions would, I think, grow it over the point where we would effectively fill those seats consistently. I could be wrong in stating that if the other committee members think otherwise, but that's one area we discussed with council. Jacqueline or Mike, do you have any feedback on the terms of office section?
Yep, sounds good to me.
Yeah, none here. Nothing on.
Thank you. All right, ex officio members, the mayor shall appoint on a revolving basis one city council member to serve as an ex officio non-voting member of the EDC, to communicate city council policy on matters before the EDC, and to be a liaison between city council and the EDC. Lisa made a comment when discussing prior to our work session. Essentially, we need to change the wording to how we would like the ex officio relationship, I guess, to work, or change the language to more accurately reflect the process that's used right now. And I think this does a good job of reflecting the process we use right now, in that the ex officio members are a liaison between us and city council, but they aren't necessarily involved other than that.
So let me throw this out there, that what you can, so all the boards and committee, well, all the committees or boards that are in ordinance now, and in this body as a more kind of long-term ad hoc, something in between. The tradition has typically been that every month a different city councilor is an ex officio member of the committee, and they show up and they participate some, and then they report back to city council, typically at the next meeting. You do have the opportunity here to, if you want to, we don't have it explicitly here, But one thing you could consider is seeking a city council member, an ex officio member that has like a 1-year term as the official city council member. The positive of that, of course, is that you have an invested member of council. The negative is that you have to vie for a council member that will commit. You know, there's that issue. I don't think, I mean, from my perspective, I don't think it would necessarily be a bad thing to have kind of a city council member or the city council member most interested in economic development. And then maybe they switch out with somebody if they can't make it. But we don't have that worded here exactly like that. And I just want to say that, you know,
It's an option.
mhm.
I think we should probably discuss that further. This just stating the facts. This is, I think, the third straight meeting we've had where the ex officio has either not attended or not attended half of the meeting. So we are having some issues getting traction currently. That's a more recent issue.
True.
We haven't had that issue in the past, but I will just state that because I think to Bill's point, a bit more consistent, if it's the same ex officio member might be beneficial.
And I'd say especially if the city council takes to heart our request that we would appreciate some direction
Mhm.
from them. I can see some value in the consistency of that liaison effort.
So would the language need to specify one way or the other, as far as you know, Bill? Would we need to ultimately decide this evening if we want to go the current language or expand it to the
I just typed the mayor shall appoint on an annual basis 1 city council member. I just changed 2 words. I mean, it's up to you to vote or decide by however you want to do it, but it's a super easy edit.
Yeah.
Just so you know, the plan is, so the goal is to have this adopted, the ordinance adopted at the November 20th meeting, and that requires that at Monday's city council meeting, we make them aware of this draft document. This doesn't have to be finalized right now, but they need to see and hear about this on Monday in order to set up a proper adoption procedure on the 20th. Am I saying that correctly,
That is
Lori?
correct.
So this doesn't have to be final tonight. But that's an easy change. It's not a structural change. It's a very easy one.
I think it's a good recommendation, the annual, to have it consistent, and I would like to see this wording stay. Thoughts from other members?
I have a question. Bill, can you explain to me the relationship? And I think it's Russ who said he filled the role of attending the business council, I'm sorry, I just blanked on the term.
Yeah, the chamber.
The
Chamber of Commerce, yeah. So how should we consider, is there a formal relationship between city council? Is that an official position Russ holds with the Chamber of Commerce?
He's the president of the Chamber of Commerce right now.
And is that just a separate thing, or is that related to his city council position?
It's separate.
Okay. I was just thinking about the overlap in purpose,
Yeah, I mean,
but it doesn't sound like that's an official city position, so I should let that go.
No, it's a good question though, because this body's charge is to work on enhancement of the city of North Plains' economy. the charge of the North Plains Chamber of Commerce is to enhance the economy of the business service area of the North Plains Chamber, and the North Plains Chamber includes businesses and unincorporated, they have broader membership, and so they have broader geographic mission. And so there's a relationship between the two, but working that out and this body helping the city move forward on economic and community development efforts, your geographic area is the city limits, and then the urban growth boundary expansion area after that. So the work of this body in the coming months will be to kind of firm up, how are you working with the chamber? Are you working together on the same things? Are you working on different things? That's something that needs to be an effort for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, but Councillor Sheldon serves as president, I think, via his membership as part of leadership for the Knights of Pythias, I do believe.
So that does not make me suggest an edit to the language you proposed.
I don't think so.
Yes, agreed.
Jeff or Mike, any, I guess, disagreement with Lisa's point to move forward with the wording as it is on the screen right now with the annual basis?
I agree with Lisa's suggestion.
And kind of jumping back to your point, Bill, about the document not necessarily needing to be finalized. I think as a group, it would be beneficial to have it as finalized as we can this evening, just because of the time we have now as a group. Okay, great. We'll keep moving along. Meetings. Economic Development Committee shall meet at least quarterly on a specific schedule adopted for the year by commission members. Commission chairperson may call by and upon the concurrence of 3 members special meeting of the commission. So we could even scale this thing back to once a quarter.
I like that language.
So we need to establish then at the beginning of the year the specific schedule of when we will be meeting, which in this case I think we would stick to the monthly cadence and time and schedule within the month, unless come January we have a different thought process on that.
Yes.
Okay. I think that makes the most sense as long as everyone is in agreement there. All right, jumping down to purpose, the largest section here with the most meat on the bone. Bill, do you mind giving some insight if there were any changes or major revisions to the document we had submitted with some of the language we used in terms of the purpose and goals of the commission?
I'd be happy to, Chair Lawson. So purpose. So 2 things. Number one, the document, or at least kind of what you had worked on before, or looked at before and talked about, there weren't the kind of formal purpose verbiage as much as here. And so what I did was I took the resolution language and then what you had talked about, and then I took a look at what the newly updated Cornelius EDC purpose section had, and I merged, modified, massaged for North Plains's EDC's purposes. So there's now a formal purpose section. And then as far as the duties and responsibilities of the commission, by and large, I kept pretty closely to what you all had pulled together in terms of what the scope of work should be for the EDC. Now, having said that, there were some redundancies that I collapsed into the same, nope, where'd it go? There were redundancies that I did kind of collapse together. What we're running into though is, and why I did that was because you don't tend to want to get too long and specific in ordinance about things. For instance, the Parks Board ordinance for North Plains currently, I think has 3 or 4 things. But of course, that board kind of has a pretty narrow scope. It's parks and recreation programs when we have them, or when, you know, concerts in the park, that sort of thing. It's a pretty narrow scope of things. There's a lot that an EDC can touch on, and your list was even longer than this, and I did collapse some things as much as possible to bring it down at least to 11 different things that the EDC, what your purpose is, what your tasks are. Even then, it probably could be merged or simplified. These do get kind of specific, but they're all, at this point, they're all pretty distinct things at 11.
Okay. I think which almost to a fault, I think we were using it almost as like a map, a guideline for us to follow on our scope. But to Bill's point, maybe a wider scope and a larger net to cast might be more beneficial, just in case our scope does change over time. But any feedback on, I don't know if the group has had a chance to read through each line item specifically, but any specific additions or things you think we can strike out?
Say, I'm not sure that we know how we're gonna tackle some of these. For example, like educational institutions, that's
Yeah.
something we need to wrap our heads around. But on the positive side, I could see that we could have members be the champion of maybe each of these for
Yeah.
a period of a year, for example.
Yeah. That's a good point. We could have a focal for different subsets, yeah.
Maybe 4 and 6 can have a combination there. More 4 and 6.
Let's have that.
Andy mentioned 4 and 6 could likely be condensed into a single line item there. Combining the education and workforce.
Yeah, I haven't, sorry. Actually, I'll go last.
You just keep baiting and switching us. I don't think, from my point of view, I had any changes or recommendations.
Okay, maybe I'll throw in one, maybe on number 10, that talks about the economic data.
Mhm.
And I was like, we are not the experts on a lot of the economic data, especially some of the examples we've seen from the downtown plan or the UGB. They've been very, very informed, data sources. However, I do think some of what has been helpful that we've been able to do, should continue to do, is some of the case studies as well of neighboring cities, that kind of thing that we can help in terms of data points.
Yeah, which is to a point looking at economic trends. And I will say it's like something we can probably do more of or improve on too, looking at data.
Yeah.
And so I that's where, should we list it even if we aren't necessarily doing that currently, but it's something we would like to get to as a group and be more proficient at? Or should we remove it and leave it broad with the idea that we still would move towards that.
Can I ask, was this something that was seen in other charters?
The gather economic data. My recollection, I'm pretty sure it's actually a hold up, it's actually a carryover from resolution 1999. Yeah, so that's a holdover.
I will say there's a history of this body gathering data. One of the first things they did that first year was do a survey, a business survey.
Yeah.
I mean, I think something as simple as that, if you want to change it to assist in gathering and analyzing activity, something like that, but I think, doing a economic development needs survey or buyer survey, something like that would be a good thing.
Yeah. Okay. Would we like to Amy's point, I think that might be a good recommendation to change the verbiage of assist at some point, so assisting with the gathering, assist with the gathering. Yeah. Beautiful. And then just quickly looking down at C and D, Economic Development Commission members shall have no authority to make any direct expenditure on behalf of the city or obligate the city for payment of any sums of money except as expressly authorized. However, they will make recommendations to the city council regarding expenditures and or obligations. Does that then the commission would not have a budget to necessarily pull from?
Yeah, you'd have a budget, you do have budget. The issue is you yourself would not get to transact money, city money. But if this like for instance, if this body says, okay, we want to sponsor a facilitation consultant to do a SWOT analysis with some residents and business owners. And okay, city, we know you budgeted for it. Please go out and make it happen. You wouldn't be the one to use a city credit card, but you all would be, leading that effort.
Gotcha. Okay.
Sort of thing, just as an example.
Okay. And item D, that was one question I had. The board shall not direct personnel or nor investigate complaints regarding performance of personnel. Is there clarification on who the board, or is it the commission? Is that us as a commission?
It needs to be changed to commission. Yeah, that's all.
Perfect. Andy, did you have something? Jacqueline and Mike, anything on the purpose section? So whether it be subsection A, B, C, or D. I know Jacqueline, you worked quite a bit on the original draft that we had before the work session on a lot of these points as well.
I really labored. I appreciate, Bill, you calling out a purpose.
Yeah.
I don't have further edits.
Sounds all good to me.
All right. Here we go. Lisa, anything else in your?
No.
Okay.
Looks good.
Jared, the only, I haven't seen this first time, I glanced through it before, good, very in depth. The only thought that I had maybe could be thrown in there, and well, you may have to think about how that threaded in to the purpose, but some nexus with urban renewal or urban renewal agency. There's gonna be probably an urban renewal amendment to the plan. I think this group can be instrumental in what would be the scope and the purpose of any urban renewal amendments, moving forward with the city, or, providing some guidance to the urban renewal agency as they move forward, which is the city council, which we kind of talked about earlier, you'd like to have a more conversation, interaction with them. So I think, maybe, yeah, that's something. Then when it comes time to the urban renewal amendment process, well, it's sort of codified there that the EDC will have some sort of role in that involvement. Yeah.
Okay. So would that essentially just fall under the duties and responsibilities in your eyes, Andy, in terms of laying
Yeah,
out pretty specific?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Bill will find an appropriate place or see if it makes sense to even have something in there, but.
Yeah.
um,
Does that make sense right now, Bill, in terms of finding a place in there
You could
for
even-
URA?
It could even pigeonhole into 8 with other agencies,
Mhm.
because technically it is a separate agency from the city council, but just.
Yeah, or
Establishment.
7 as well, potentially.
There we go, yeah.
Yeah,
I think we're open to giving you the power, Bill, to feather it in where needed.
Well,
I-
I'd like
Don't let it go to your head now.
We talked about it with the city council, but I like that idea.
Right. I think that's a great point. And something I think I kind of spaced on too. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Andy.
yeah, so I'll tell you honestly, after looking at everything, I honestly wouldn't mind putting it into section A explicitly,
Okay.
because many of the things in B, duties and responsibilities, 1 through 11, much of it could be city general fund, community development stuff, and also equally be true of doing that through the urban renewal agency, if that makes sense. I mean,
Yes,
that
yeah,
because like 0.7 is incentives, and so just one way of doing it that way,
it would open it up more. Essentially, it wouldn't be specific to a sub point on like incentives or kind of more narrowed scope on it.
well, yeah, because, well, like for instance, develop marketing materials. Well, that would be true of city economic development, but would also be true of very specific URA downtown and
Gotcha.
in Glencoe efforts. Advocate for infrastructure improvements. Equally true of new infrastructure for the UGB, as well as what's needed on commercial in Glencoe specifically. Yeah, everything 1 through most everything 1 through 11 is equally true of general city growth, economic development, and URA specific economic development. So I think maybe I'll work on a purpose subsection A call out regarding explicitly the urban renewal agency.
Okay.
Up here
Mhm.
would, I guess, is
That's-
kind of my first look
yeah.
at it.
Okay. That sounds beneficial to me. Anyone opposed to that plan?
No, I like calling it out explicitly.
Excellent. Thank you, Bill.
Mm.
Thank you, Andy. All right. 31.73 compensation. The EDC members shall, I think we have a typo. It says no compensation. EDC members shall receive no compensation for their services. I think we can all agree that's the best route forward. Thank you for including that one. 31.74. Actually, before I move on, any changes to that one? I just want to open it up and be fair. I hear no objections. 31.74 quorum, rules and regulations, majority of the appointed EDC shall constitute a quorum. So with us going to 7 members, we would need 4 members. Whereas now we just need 3. The commission shall adopt rules and regulations to conduct its affairs, which rules and regulations shall be consistent with the laws of the state, city charter, and city ordinances. Is the rules and regulations we adopt a separate document that does not exist yet?
I don't believe there is a rules or regulations document.
Okay.
No.
So that's something we would need to,
Do we need one?
Yeah.
Yes, do we need one?
I think one, sorry to jump back in, one area we discussed was attendance and some general ground rules around specifics on how to go forward if there are issues with attendance or things of that nature.
That's the one that pops.
I think to Lisa's point, maybe what you could just say is the commission shall adhere to rules and regulations consistent with the other boards and commissions of this, so like the city council, for instance,
Mhm.
probably more strict, but it's there in the charter, it lays all these things out.
Yeah.
Other council rules.
Lori was just saying that the other committees do have a document, and it's greatly about if you don't show up enough, you get booted, sort of thing.
Okay.
But it doesn't, get into a lot of other elaborate.
And that is a final decision by council. It's not like you guys could just say, because council appoint mayor and council appoint you. You have to go to go in front of them and say, we have a member that's missed half of the meetings and
Gotcha.
we would like to replace them with someone that attends.
And do we need that written in rules for, to be able to do that?
I think it's easy enough to put in because we've got that little block of language in the other ones. So.
And I think it was also discussed, like, having that in there is probably not necessary, but it would help carry more weight if people are
Yeah,
not adhering, if members are not adhering to that.
Yeah, because like I said, I know the planning has it in theirs and the Parks and Rec has it in there, so I feel like it should be in each one individually to keep it consistent.
Yeah.
That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, like for instance, this is actually here's a hypothetical. Suppose you have a member who's halfway through their term and they sell their business that they had in North Plains, and they no longer not only don't live in the city, they no longer have property business in the city. When do they resign?
Okay, so I think we are in agreement there. We'll add some type of verbiage that's consistent with, okay.
We can and we can pull that, we have
Yeah.
precedent on that. It's not a big,
Overhaul.
no,
Yeah.
no, exactly.
And this is a side note, but I really appreciate the current members of our committee and how consistent we have been
Mhm.
over the last year plus. It's been really fantastic.
I agree. That's a great point. All right, and that's the end of the document. Any other go backs or things we'd like to touch on regarding the drafted ordinance?
Nothing for me.
Jacqueline or Mike, anything on the line?
Nope.
All right. We'll move forward. We're at 7:01. I know I try to keep us tight at 7 PM wrapping up, but with our slower start and some technical difficulties, I think we can extend a little bit here and discuss just a couple more items. on the agenda, one of which, Lori's favorite acronym, the UGB. We were just gonna go through some updates, I think, on the UGB and potentially how us as a committee can help support that effort.
Thank you, Chair Lawson. So, okay, so I'll try to be as quick as I can about this. I think, so right now, the urban growth boundary expansion proposal, city council, of course, on second reading, adopted the new urban growth boundary by ordinance on the 18th of September. It's now before the county, and we had a county planning commission hearing a couple of weeks ago. But I think at this point, the big update really is, because it relates to the Washington County Planning Commission and county process, that is that petitioners in opposition to the ordinance that created a new urban growth boundary successfully collected enough signatures to put a ballot measure on the May 2024 ballot in the city of North Plains. And they're going to and have been actively working on campaign process to get residents to vote to repeal the ordinance and stop the urban growth boundary expansion. Because the referendum effort collected enough signatures, the county process is currently uncertain. We're not sure how the county is going to proceed on this, and what we're hearing is not encouraging, as in a delay because of this. So that's where things are right now. Having said that, I guess what I would say is that that there will be a political advice or political action committee formed. The city can't do it, but community members, members of the Chamber of Commerce, that sort of thing, that's going to be formed in order to run a yes campaign. And Chris Barron has agreed to serve on that. So we'll see how that performs, but that's being discussed. So there'll be news about that, but the bottom line is there will be opportunity to get involved in that, but it's early in that process too. So interesting time right now.
Thank you, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions on UGB topic? Andy, did you have any additions or anything this evening? Jacqueline, Mike, anything from you guys on the line?
Nothing here.
Nope, nothing here either.
Rudy, thanks for jumping on. Anything, any words of wisdom this evening?
I think you should all go watch the World Series.
All right, we'll go shut her down.
There you go.
Nice meeting, Eric. I'm gonna get through it. All right.
All right. Any other topics just for the good of the whole here before we adjourn? We can look through the staff report and some land use applications kind of on our own time as well. Time best used there. If nothing else is coming to mind for the group, we'll go ahead and call this meeting adjourned. 7:06 p.m. November 1st on this Wednesday. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Okay, no,